Welcome to Mornings with Mom, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning. Good morning to each and every one of you. It is Thursday, September 18th, and it is my sister Kellyanne's birthday. Happy birthday, that middle child. Lord have mercy. Happy birthday, baby. Well, sister. Now you're not the baby. Happy birthday, sister. I hope you have an incredible day. And I hope you get everything that you wanted for peace, joy, happiness, all the things in these in this next 24 hours. In fact, there's my father now, probably trying to say good morning and happy birthday to her. Good morning to each and every one of you. It has been a day. I have now been up for 27 hours straight. Need to take a nap, but I warned you all this week. Last night into today was going to be an incredibly long day. So I am grateful. The people that I had to work with from midnight to 2:30 this morning were incredibly grateful, that I was able to sit with them and have the dialogue that they needed. And so while I told them that I may never do this again, and one said to me, wait, and you came dressed professionally at midnight, you don't have on slippers, you're not wearing a sweatsuit. I said, because I'm working. I'm literally working. So, I'm here to do the job. And it was refreshing. And as I was in the middle of dialogue with these folks, I realized I truly love what I do. This is not let me just get up and do it because I really do love what I do. And, one person said to me, you made me talk about things without my even realizing it. I was sharing things in front of a group of people that I would have never shared openly and just began spilling, right? And so it is a gift, and I'm grateful for it, but I'm exhausted. Before I did that, I was at Grace Baptist Church on Germantown Avenue, moderating a conversation with District Attorney Larry Krasner and a bunch of community members and leaders, a rabbi, one pastor, Dr. Donna, who had all these hubs around the city, 23 of them, helping neighbors to solve their problems without having to call the police. The room was standing room. It was a huge room. It was standing room only in that space. And people came. The questions that they wanted to ask was, what should they do? Should, ICE show up at their doorsteps? There were a lot of retired lawyers in the room who are now doing pro bono immigration cases, which it was good to hear. Folks are afraid, they're frightened. The district attorney, the sheriff's office explained to them what they could do, what they can't do. And then we had Joe Budd from Men Who Care Germantown come in, and he brought a whole bunch of young people with him, and we gave them special dispensation to ask their questions. And one of the very first question was, why is there such a proliferation of guns in our community? And he explained to them, what was going on. The district attorney is asking us to shine a light when we see something, turn on your phones, record or take pictures. All of those things will be evidence, and it would help to, for history moving forward, what was going on. We ended, it was a 2-hour thing. We ended in a good note, but you could also see people had so many more questions. And so tonight there is another meeting with at Mother Bethel, and the pastor of that church is going to moderate the conversations that are happening there. So people are asking, people are, they're sharing their thoughts and their ideas about what they can do to support each other. And of course, as the moderator, I was the moderator last night, began having conversations with them about how to prepare themselves. Make sure you have a bag, that you have enough water in your home, et cetera, et cetera. It is who it's been, and that you have your ID on you, and that you have your passport on you. Some of the retired lawyers said they had been going down to the ICE center, detention center, and, with their signs up, speaking about it, because they're saying Haitians in general, Haitians are being grabbed are being, their statuses are being taken away. So, folks are like, well, I have my green card, I have my citizenship. The president is, according to these lawyers, has worked on sending letters to these folks and saying, we're revoking your citizenship, we're revoking your safety status here, so that you can stay in the country. They're revoking all of it, and folks are being put in detention and being sent back to their country of origin. One of the things District Attorney Krasner said last night was this. He said in Philadelphia and in Pennsylvania in particular, there are extra protections for those of us who live in this county, in this state. And so he said, we shouldn't worry too much. Well, he didn't say that. He said we are protected, so we don't have to, we have to know our rights and speak up for our rights, and just be careful that wherever we go, we're with people around us so that we know that we're okay. As a moderator of the conversation, I was careful to keep it from going down a slide of, calling people names, that kind of stuff, just to really assure people of what we can do to be safe in this city, what that should look like. And really, truly, the bottom line comes down to what I have been saying to all of you. Find your tribe, know your neighbors, help to take care of each other, ask the questions. What can I do to support you? What do you need? Right? Because your neighbor is more than likely the one that's going to help to protect you in times of trouble. And they see the trouble coming. They do not believe for a second. And when I say they, I mean the district attorney's office do not believe for 1 second that we won't, that this stuff won't come here to us. So, it's been, that was that. Before that, I was at the Salvation Army luncheon in support of Tiffany Tavares, who was just, her speech was just so incredible and phenomenal. But that was from 11 to 2 p.m. So I never was able to go to sleep. And then I had to get and do that stuff early this morning. So I was never able to go to sleep at all yesterday. But I am grateful that I was able to experience all of those things. And so in the middle of driving home at 2:00 this morning, I realized that something was going on with Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel. Here's the other thing. There's an uprising happening in France, right? And so all these things are going on at one time, and we're trying to navigate through all of it. Good morning. I see you. Someone says, hopefully that vibrant yellow will keep you awake. Who? I don't know. I do not know. 27 hours, Monica. Yeah, I'm tired. So when y'all see me tonight, just go, just put me. If I say I'm thirsty, just go ahead, Mama. What do you need? I will give you the coins. I probably will not be able to walk by 5:00 this evening. Good morning, Winetta. Good morning, Viola. Jimmy, yeah. So Viola, we're talking about Jimmy Kimmel. So let me pull this up. This was written by Politico. Disney pulls Jimmy Kimmel live indefinitely following Kirk comments. The network came under fire from the FCC chair and conservatives after Kimmel's response to Charlie Kirk's killing. Jacob Wendler wrote this, and it was updated at 11:37 last night. Disney said Wednesday it would indefinitely suspend comedian Jimmy Kimmel's late night show following the host's comments on the fatal shooting of conservative organizer Charlie Kirk. Kimmel criticized conservatives on Monday for desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and with everything they can score political points from it. Jimmy Kimmel Live will be preempted indefinitely, an ABC spokesperson said on Wednesday evening. The spokesperson did not specify why the network had decided to suspend the show. An episode of Celebrity Family Feud from July aired in its place on Wednesday night. The decision follows a firestorm of criticism from conservatives, including Federal Communications Commission Chair Brendan Carr, who implied his agency could suspend broadcast licenses if it did not take action against the comedian. These companies, and I quote, can find ways to take action on Kimmel, or there is going to be additional work for the FCC ahead, Carr said on an episode of conservative commentator Benny Johnson's podcast released on Wednesday afternoon. Trump lauded the company for finally having the courage to do what had to be done in a social media post, while also urging NBC to cancel Jimmy Fallon's and Seth Meyers' late night show. So, as you can see, things are not what they used to be. And it's going to be like this for God knows how long. And so we just have to figure it out, right? So I don't know what that looks like, but we're going to have to navigate through this. Okay. Let me do a little bit. I meant to do the morning motivation, but y'all work with me today. Oh, I love this story. And this was written years ago. So yesterday, in the middle of doing some work in a particular place, we met a gentleman who told us he was running for school board. You already know, I asked him for his contact information and asked if he was willing to take some unsolicited advice about the process. He said yes. We spoke at length this morning, and he said thanks, and we got off the phone. Imagine my surprise when he texted me not 30 minutes later to say he was telling his wife about this lady who offered advice and how he felt motivated to move ahead. When he mentioned my name, he said his wife grabbed him and said that I spoke at the high school last year, and she walked away so inspired and impacted because it was powerful. He said it was the first time a complete stranger offered the kind of help I gave him, and his entire family is grateful on several levels. We never know who, what, when, why, or how. Our one job is to treat people with grace and kindness. The rest will work itself out. That man is now the mayor of Upper Darby Township. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know he was going to run. In fact, when he decided that he was going to run for mayor, he called me. I met with him. We sat down and we talked. I was a part of his kitchen cabinet, and we just kind of sat and talked. And I told him, I said, don't put my name on anything. Just let's talk quietly about what to expect, and everything I told him to expect, it was just popping up for him. So I was a part of his kitchen cabinet while he was running, and supported him behind the scenes to make sure that he didn't make any missteps, as much as he possibly could. I told him they were going to go through his trash, they were going to trail all the things, right? Because this is the first time in Upper Darby's 100 plus year history that they had a person of color, a Black person, becoming mayor. But he credits that class that he took with me. It was a 12-week class about your core values, about your integrity. How do you navigate problems, issues, and situations? How do you work through all of what's going on? After he took that class, he ran for school board and won the second time and became the school board president. Stayed in touch. His wife, this darling woman that was his everything, passed away while I was on one of my road trips. And he went on to try and figure out, his children are amazing, but he was a perfect stranger. He literally was. I was in a room. I had never met him before. He said he was running for school board, and I sat him down and I said, here, let me give you what you're going to need to thrive and survive. And so in the last from 2007 to now, I haven't done it much recently, I've helped dozens and dozens of people become school board members, right? Just working with them, talking to them about, what was going on. Did I know that he was going to become the first Black mayor of Upper Darby? No. Did I know he was going to win that school board election? Yes, because we had put plans in place to support him and told him what he needed to do, that he needed to beat the ground, walking, talking to people. And whenever he became school board director, that he was to stay true to who he was and do the work. This was not about having a title, but about helping people. And so now he's in this powerful place. People, you heard Sharon Gordon say yesterday when we met for the first time on Sunday, I was eating a meal. I didn't look up at her and go, don't you see I'm eating? I didn't do any of that. I stopped eating, right? And I started talking to her. That is now turning into a good relationship. How many people do we just brush away because...
Tanisha said, good morning, Andrea. My apologies as I am just reading your message.
Sorry.
Dealing with a family.
Sorry. The how many people do you brush aside because you don't think they're important enough? What does that look like for you? Real humility shows up when you are in spaces and you're not asking for anything. I walked into that room at the district attorney's thing at Grace Baptist Church yesterday, and I walked into the room, said hello to everybody, went all the way to the back and sat down. It was when I opened my mouth on the stage, everybody went, it was so funny. A couple of women recognized me. But this one man said, I was sitting beside you. You said hello. You were quiet. It never dawned on me until you started talking and setting everybody straight up on the thing. Yeah, I love what I do. And so you don't have to walk in with a whole entourage, people walking behind you. None of that. Just be your gentle, humble self, because when people see you, people watch you. How are you showing up? What does that look like? And being humble doesn't mean that you have to ingratiate yourself and live on the floor, and just be kind. Be kind wherever you go. Be kind wherever you go. And so when you show up authentically to help people, they will then in turn show up authentically to help you. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know. So it's becoming very difficult for folks to be there, especially if you're a journalist, if you're a comedian, if you have a late night show, if you have a radio stations are becoming obsolete. Let me just be clear with you. Literally becoming obsolete. So if we're not pivoting and doing all the right things, then I don't know what's going to happen here, which means you got to pull your audience along with you to say, this is where we are right now. And you have to have the kind of content. Your content cannot be trash. If you don't listen to the people and what they're asking for, you're going to continue to lose your audience. Your content just cannot be trash, right? France, let me talk about this. The Associated Press wrote this. Sylvie Corbett wrote this 5 hours ago. The day of strikes in France challenges new prime minister budget plans. The people are rising up in France. And oh, by the way, Poland is being targeted by Russia for helping Ukrainian refugees. So now Poland is on edge and expecting to be attacked again. I don't know if you remember the war that Poland went through, where many of their families ended up coming here to live because they were under such trying conditions. There is an upheaval around the globe. And because we're really concentrated on what's happening here, I don't think, we see or feel enough of what's going on around the country. Protesters hit France with transport strikes, notably targeting the Paris metro, blockades and demonstrations on Thursday, because they're now ahead of us, pitting the power of the streets against President Emmanuel Macron's government and its plans to cut funding for public services that underpin the French way of life. The first scuffles between police and protesters came before the break of day. In Paris, demonstrations were planned nationwide from France's biggest cities to small towns. Major trade unions that called strikes are pushing for the abandonment of proposed budget cuts, social welfare freezes, and other belt tightening that opponents contend will further erode the purchasing power of low-paid and middle-class workers, which triggered the collapse of successive governments that sought to push them through. Sounds familiar? Happening around the world. The planned day of upheaval, with strikes also impacting schools, industry, and other sectors of the European Union's second largest economy, aim to turn up the heat on new Prime Minister Sebastian Lecornu. Macron appointed him last week, tasking Lecornu with the job of building support in Parliament for proposed budget cuts that brought down his immediate predecessors, but which the government insists are needed to rein in France's massive deficit and debt. So, so that's happening there. There's stuff going on in the continent of Africa, and so that's where we are. Lord have mercy. Marguerite says everyone, regardless of status, are important. Good morning. Yeah. I don't walk in. You just don't walk into rooms, with your back up. Do you know who I am? No. Just be your just gentle self, and people, will move one way or the other depending on what's going on. There's Cherie. There she is. Whew. Cherie. With your back up. Do you know Cherie. Who I am? No. Just be your just gentle self, and people, will move one way or the other depending on
Good
what's going
morning,
on.
Roz.
There's Cherie. There she is.
Cherie, good morning, darling.
Cherie.
Yes. Good
Good morning.
morning.
Cherie.
Turn that
Just
down.
be your just gentle self, and people.
Okay.
I didn't realize you had let me in the studio. My
Yeah, oh, I
apologies.
know. The last couple of weeks, I've been putting you in at 7:00, 7:05. So much going on in this country, in the world.
No, I heard you talking about France and Macron and all the things.
Girl. Rabbi said last night at an event that I attended, said, we're going to have to pull together because the fear that we're starting to feel as a people is wearing on us. And we should not fear, because fear then makes us go in a corner and not say anything. Everybody's over here saying good morning to you, darling. That the fear is what's driving people to not say anything. And the more we don't say anything, the more things happen. So, whew. Good morning, and let me introduce you formally to the folks who had never
Good
heard.
morning, everyone. Good morning.
Oh, right.
Yeah, no, that fear is real. That fear,
Oh,
every once in a
baby.
while- every once in a while, I feel it, and I have to listen to my affirmations, and I have to do my devotionals, and I'm on a
Yes.
wife's prayer call on Thursday, and I'm like, woo, I gotta
It's a
get,
lot.
we gotta get close.
Yes. I saw Boomy Fernandez walking down the street on Friday. She actually posted it on Instagram. She said, I ran into Andrea, and I was like, it's a lot. And she says, Andrea, unplug so you can remember who God is. And that helped me as I was walking to go where I needed to. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. And I had a meeting at midnight tonight into 2:00 this morning. And everybody, oh yeah, it's a lot. I've been up for 27, 28, 20. Been a long time. I've been up for a few hours, over a day. So, I'm going to crash and burn at some point. But everybody.
You won't crash and burn. You're gonna get the rest your body needs. We gotta watch our words.
So clearly my brain is operating on a whole different level right now after this lack of sleep. But the goal is to try and get some today, an hour here or an hour there, because I have a bunch of meetings. But tonight, when I lay my head down, Jesus wept. I'm going to sleep for a good 10 hours so I can navigate Friday. This economy, what's going on around the world, what's happening daily, has been a lot on relationships. And for those of you who are in committed relationships or married, I would like you now to either call in 215-400-0146 or, and let me put it here, or write in, talk to us here, because I have to believe. How are you and Tracy navigating what's going on in in the economy that impacts your lives? What are you doing differently?
So one thing about, and good morning again, everyone. Oh my goodness, I've always loved to be in this community. And I have to give a little at the very end. The thing I called you about after not last week, but the week before.
Yes.
So anyway, we continually say, like, we have to be in deeper prayer, we have to be in deeper meditation. Like I said, I ran into a person downtown at the city who invited me to this wives prayer call, and it's powerful. I am not like I'm not a religious fanatic by any stretch of the imagination. If you read my book, I was raised in a very, very religious household. And as a result, I kind of lean more spiritual than religious. Mm-hmm. But I'm like making those worlds collide. Like, we went to church, and we go to church for sure, but with the restaurant and, just all the things, sometimes we don't go like every Sunday. Mm-hmm. But we went to church, and it just felt so good being in those four walls. Mm-hmm. I know, there's a lot around religion and, some of its impact on women and just so many things. But in our communities, the church has kind of been this place of sanctuary. Mm-hmm. And that is how I'm feeling. And that is how I felt, mm-hmm. being at church and kind of wanting to be at church. What I love is, And this is why picking your partner and your partner picking you is so important. Like Tracy is really my balance. And, I'm like, this is happening and this is due, and this money didn't come in, or we haven't gotten paid for this contract yet, or because I'm this tenant hasn't paid rent, and I'm managing the money, which even when I worked was it flowed differently. So it's just different. And he's, constantly like, relax. And he's constantly like, let me reach out to, I'm reaching out to this contact so that we can make sure we can secure this thing. And so he's kind of the, thinker, and we're both thinking, but I definitely emotionally get a little bit more charged. So I have to be really mindful. And I'm like, if I'm going to pray, I can't worry. But every once in a while you get human and you worry. And I mean, for the first time the other day, he just said, we're going to, we may need to come back. And I was like,
Listen, when you're an entrepreneur, it's hit or miss when your checks get to you or when your deposits are made. And in this economy, it's not so easy. So can you imagine being in a marriage where you're seeing and you're starting to feel the effects of what's happening? What I have learned to do is speak over our marriage. We are well. All things are going well. No matter what we face, we'll be okay.
Yes.
But I do it when I'm in the shower and the water is just cascading. The water. I speak into the water. And I'm constantly speaking affirmations over myself, so that, because I am the emotionally charged one too. So where my husband will say, it's going to be all right, I'm like, there you say.
No, it's not. And it's not okay right now.
Yeah.
And
then,
I will say this though. I will say this. I continually, I kind of self-deprecate a little bit, but I really have evolved and I really have grown. Like 10 years ago, I would be trying to get a job. I mean, I would not be this comfortable kind of sitting in where we're at. And not that where we're at is, we're not where other people are. There was an article that I sent my team the day before yesterday, because anecdotally, I mean, you talk about things and you see things in the tea leaves and there's different market pieces that you look at. But there was an article yesterday that talked about the people with wealth are keeping the economy afloat, because the people kind of middle, kind of that blue collar middle class and below are tightening up and not spending. And so, when we're looking at foot traffic in the restaurant and just different things like that, like we're seeing that in real time with who's coming in, who's spending, who we don't see. And that was a sobering, but factual, like it was in your face, like this is where we are in the economy. And it's so interesting because, the Feds reduced the rates yesterday. So there's a lot of conversation around the economy yesterday. And what I don't understand is kind of what you were talking about a little bit when I first came on and I heard you. We had an economy that was humming along. And an economist said, I don't understand why this administration didn't just let it hum along and take all the credit. Why this administration is trying to crash it. Is it on purpose? And it's just, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is that on purpose, or is ego so big that you can't just let what the other guy did benefit you, be a part of what your story is? And so I posted, it was Tracy's birthday last Friday, and we went to the Kansas City Chiefs Eagles game. And I posted it while we were out because we went to a few Black-owned restaurants, and I do my research before we go and, check and see who make phone calls, just to make sure that, if not every meal, most of our meals are places that Black owned. And, what was challenging was that we went to a place for brunch, and I've rarely been to a place on Sunday brunch where it's just not packed. And it wasn't packed. And, so it's just kind of like, we just have to continue to be intentional with what we say, how we think, how we spend our money, just so many of those things. So I know I kind of deviated from how we're navigating this, but we're navigating it in solidarity, and we're navigating it with prayer, and we're navigating it with him being such a patient husband.
Yeah. It's great to have patient husbands.
And just us kind of knowing our assignment. Like, that's what I always feel like, we know our assignment, and we know what communities that we're poised to impact. And we have to continue to say aloud, we alone can't keep every Black business in business, but collectively we can all make big impact.
Yeah. Kent says, good morning, Andrea Lawful Sanders, Mr. S. He always acknowledges my husband and the listening viewing family. He and his wife have been married for 33 years. Resilience and grace have been the keys to our longevity. You've got to be able to navigate through when tough times come. And if you don't have a pretty solid relationship when the tough times hit, it makes it even that more difficult. Cheryl Brown, I see you're on here. I haven't seen you in a while, so you must have been really taking care of your mother and your daughters. Good to see you, honey, because usually she tells everybody good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, we haven't seen you in a minute. Kent, as you all know, was on season 1 of my podcast talking about, his son being murdered and then being diagnosed with prostate cancer once it spread. And so he's looking at having more life behind him than in front of him, but he's doing clinical trials, et cetera, et cetera. The murder of his son was enough. And I'm talking about a man and his family who have just been loving on everybody, making sure everybody's children are okay. His son went to a birthday party and violence broke out, and he went back to get somebody who was left behind, and that's how he was taken. And just talking about it just brings me immense sorrow, because he's been dealing with all of that. And if you go back and listen to the episode with him, I'm telling you, you will think through what you're talking about, how you're dealing. And I remembered him saying that he said to his wife, we've had a good run. If you want to leave, go, you can leave. He was gracious enough because he knew what he was about to go through. They did not expect him to live. He had to learn how to walk again. The cancer was in his spine, was in his spine. And so he had to do all these things. And which marriage will survive? How will your marriage survive the toughest times? He's actually living, immersed in it.
In that, yes. And, that was a little bit of that conversation that we were having about when your spouse gets ill or whatever, and all this other stuff. And remember, I was saying, I would let Mr. Syfax this, and I would hope he, would let me be, because I can't be 15 years and not being able to be intimate with my husband. He was like, Mr. Syfax, I don't know what you were talking about. This is till death do us part.
Yeah. Yeah.
I started cracking up. I called Andrea, you guys, because I was talking big strong.
And her husband was like, yeah, no.
Person was like, girl, you are with me and I am with you. Yeah. But what that brought was just this joy in my heart. Like, I got my husband, it's me, my man. It's me and him. Like, he is married. We married.
Yeah. And the disagreements cannot be fatal. There has to be a space where you can say, we don't agree, but we know that we're in this together. What does this look like? We've been talking through everything. Yeah. Marguerite says, Cheryl says she missed us all so much. Life has been lifing for me. I'll call you, sweetie pie. I don't know how coherent I'll be, after all this hours of not sleeping. Mr. July's episode was very thought-provoking. It was more than that, Marguerite, but you are absolutely correct. Just last night, right around 10 o'clock, I was getting ready to go do my thing.
But really, really quick. So the interesting thing is he is like living it and going through it, and how he gives his wife permission. Like, so that is a real thing, irrespective of the amount of time you've been married.
His wife permission, yes.
And all those things, because remember, we have varying comments with regard to, and all respectful, and I know that because I know this community, but but varying comments of, I could never, and sometimes we can say things when we're not we're not in the middle of it. And so how selfless of
Of
him,
him.
of
And
him.
she said, I am staying with you, you know,
And
no matter what
and
it
I
looks
love
like.
that.
Yes,
Yes. And
yes,
that is what it's about. That is what
yeah,
it's
yeah,
about.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but you know, so anyway, Mr. Syphax put me on notice, y'all, just letting you know.
So next time you want to come on here and flip off with your lips about blah 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 blah, he's like, what?
you talking
No,
about?
no.
Just talking.
Yeah, yeah, that was good though. I want to flip this a little bit and talk about men who are in marriages, and it happens a lot with women that they're in marriages, they don't contribute to the marriage at all, in one way or another, they just feel they should stay home and eat bonbons. But increasingly we're finding men who are in that space, married for God knows how many years, they have a job but they pay zero bills, they don't help to pay the mortgage, they don't help to pay for the food. They don't help to pay for the electricity, nothing. Their money is their money, right? Let's talk about this because I've been hearing this.
I know nothing about that.
Yeah, let's talk about this because we've been hearing this more and more. And I asked one sister, said, so tell me how you're married this long and your husband does not pay a bill. Right.
And let's be clear on that. There is a her last name is Allen. I'm trying to think. Is it Pat Allen? She's kind of a relationship guru. She's one of the women who, she's old school, and she kind of is the woman who did the matchmaker. She's like, was her mentor. And she is really one of those originating thoughts of like rotational dating, and not like being with one person until you know that that's the person, and you both collect and connect each other. And she also was the one talking about kind of masculinity and femininity, and then she wrote a book, and in her book she talks about, for the women who are more masculine, you may need a husband who has more feminine energy. So she talked about like an executive married to an artist. So like an executive, that person is okay taking on paying all the bills, while her husband, because they, from a polarity perspective, they align better. And it's just the husband who then is the artist, the creative. He may not have a consistent paycheck. He may take care of more of the children. So
I get that. I
there's
get that part, right?
marital
And
dynamic.
there are entrepreneurs, etc. Most men take great care of their families because that's how they were raised and expected to do all that. Most men are there, but I'm talking about the men who are making money. They have a full-time job. They are making six figures and will not add to the bills, will not help to pay a bill, and is proud and saying, I'm not supporting you, I'm not helping you to do this.
Now
How
that
does
to me
one
doesn't sound
navigate
like
this?
marriage. That doesn't sound like marriage to me.
So it says here, a spouse's refusal to pay bills may constitute financial abandonment, where one partner neglects their financial duties, leaving the other to shoulder the burden. Legal recourse for financial abandonment varies by jurisdiction, but can include filing for legal separation or divorce. I just don't know what is in the head of those men. I've spoken to more than a few of them, and they're like, well, my mama pays my bills. My mama is making sure I can't make this stuff up. I cannot make this stuff up, right?
Interesting.
Yes. It all comes back to mom. My mom says do XYZ. My mom is, my mom, every last one of those men. And when their mothers pass away, they just become almost
Really
useless. Yes.
And I think that is also those of us, who have a little bit more masculine energy in how we show up, even for our children. Mothers need to be careful about how they manage their sons. I have a girlfriend who, that's a constant conversation about how, I'm like, remember, he's going to be somebody's wife. Remember, he can't come back to you all the time. And so we do have to be careful. But that is why that scripture said a man will leave his family and him and his wife will become one flesh. And if we are interfering in that, then we are obstructing what, what the sanctity, of marriage.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read one of the things in our call this morning was the 7 rings of marriage, the model for lasting and fulfilling marriage, and one of those things is, again, it's you and your spouse and God, and not your children, and not your parents.
Let me be clear with all of you who are under the sound of our voices. Finances are the thing that impacts most marriages if you don't sit and communicate and talk about marriage. But the majority of people who are in their marriages sit down and they work it through. There may have one that will spend money. There may be a time when the wife lost her job or the husband lost his job. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about instances where life happens and one loses the job and the other one has to figure it out for a period of time. That's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about dude, man, married, making 6 figures, big time job, and refuse to pay a bill in the house. Not a bill. Not a bill. I know Monica. Monica says, I'm very confused. Laverne says, I can see a woman not paying bills based off the marriage and husband providing, but hearing a man saying that I'm not and don't, that sounds abusive. But why is it okay for the woman not paying the bills though?
So I think you're still back to whatever the agreement of the household is.
Right.
And I still think that there are men in marriages that are more traditional in nature.
Yeah.
Tracy and I have a more traditional in nature marriage. I don't work in its purest sense of work.
Stop right there. Stop right there. You don't work in the sim, but you work. You are supporting the businesses. So
I do
it's not like
support
you're
the
sitting
businesses.
at home eating bonbons.
But there are some marriages where women do get to sit at home, and I wouldn't say eat bonbons, but they get to take their children. They get to take their children to daycare.
I get that. That's different too.
Correct. So they have chosen to have a more traditional home. So when you're saying, why do the women get to do that? I think that's why, because they have chosen to have what's considered a more traditional marriage.
And in some cases where the women make way more money than the men are the stay-at-home dads. Again,
correct. So there's
right.
the one. So I went to a conference one time, and the CEO of Procter & Gamble, she talked about that. She said for them, her husband was a successful businessman too, but when she began to be promoted, they collectively made a decision that her husband would be the ones, because children needed to go back and forth to school, and they didn't want other people raising their children. But she also said, I'm the CEO when I'm at work, but I am a wife when I am at home. So I think she had a healthy balance of what that needed to look like to make sure that her husband still was, the man of the house. This, to Laverne's point, this sounds abusive. And Laverne also says something else that I think is extremely important, important. Even as we are raising our children, period, when we talk about finances, children do need to have responsibility at a certain point, at a certain age, whether it's they're paying a little bit of something here, or whether, I know my kids had to pay something, but I put it away for them. Young men, they are expected, again, if we continue what the traditional norms are, they are expected to take care of at least themselves, if nothing else. So they should be paying some rent or have some responsibility, and there should be conversations around what that looks like. I don't know, and I know it's till death do us part.
Laverne says, you stay with me for 3 weeks, you become a tenant, you paying some rent. Yes.
That does feel abusive, and
it is abusive.
If we didn't agree to that, then we would have to be figuring out what that dynamic looks like, because there would be no way that you make 6 figures and we're in a household and you're just refusing to pay bills that you are helping to incur. So there's one thing where the wife is just a spender and the husband's like, okay, I've paid these bills off already and I'm not going to do that again. That's a different scenario. But where you're saying, hey, I'm bringing this money into this household and I'm not contributing to the household, then we have a whole different problem. And somewhere along the line, there was some signs that somebody overlooked, and it's just, It is. We need to have conversations around finances, and I
Yeah.
think it just kind of goes back to what
Mhm.
conversations are we having when we're dating.
Mhm.
What dynamics are we looking at as it pertains to our partners and their
Mhm.
parents. Just
Mhm.
all those things are very, very important, and are the
Mhm.
things that ultimately end up showing up in our unions.
Mhm. One of the sisters that I was talking to said, when I asked her, because when she disclosed, my mouth dropped. I said, "Wait, what?" And I said, "Make me understand," because I'm always seeking first to understand instead of wanting to be understood. I said, "So make me understand how you got to this place." What she said was, when they were dating, she gave him a couple of bills. He wasn't offering to pay any bills. Then she gave him a couple of bills to pay. He didn't pay them on time. And she just got sick and tired of it and says, "Just give me back all the bills." Well, he says to her 17 years later, "You never asked for me to pay any bill after that, and so I just never offered." But you're eating, you have a roof over your head. She says he'll take them to dinner every once in a while. That's his contribution to the marriage. He'll take them to dinner every once in a while. That's it. She covers everything else. And when she went back to him and said, I
Why did it
recognize
take
that.
her so long to? Why did?
I asked. She said, "That's on me." She said it was just easier to do what needed to be done instead of, waiting for him to do the right thing. And she said by the time she realized that all of the pressure was on her years later, when she went to him, he was like, "Yeah, no, not doing it."
Mm.
And so I've always said we choose our joys and our sorrows long before we experience them. And so now, it's an issue. Marguerite says, "I told my family you can't stay here unless you come out of this body, or I can claim you on my taxes." I love y'all.
But let me, and this is going to take a tiny bit off topic, but
Mhm.
this is some of the reason why we have a hard time being communal in our communities,
Mhm. Mhm.
because we don't collect, we don't do like our brown brothers and sisters, where we all live in the house and we all pull together to then get the next thing. And I know some of the comments are funny, and I get that, but as we think about kind of where we are economically,
Yes. Rough
we
out
need to
here.
be thinking a little bit less in that way and a little bit more about
Mhm.
community. Seriously,
Mhm.
I wish my kids would come here. I wish
Yeah.
they would come here, and we, we would help them save. Then we would buy them a house, one at a
Mhm.
time. Then buy the next person a house.
Mhm.
I wish they would. I wouldn't have a problem with any of our children being here at this juncture, because it's challenging, you
Mhm.
know, financially. I mean, just listening to, with our tenants, like, understand that people are paying half their rent, or people are paying
Mhm.
later. Now, let me say this. I know people aren't always managing their money properly, so I
Mhm.
do understand that. But I mean, just talking, I don't know why everybody talks to me. Tracy, they'll never talk to him. And the Ubers, he like, hey, babe. But, I'm literally listening to people say that they're living in a hotel, and they're, things like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we do have to, I want us as Black people, because we are the ones that can't nobody come to my house.
Mhm.
And again, I
Child.
know some of it's in jest, but I do want us to be thinking a little bit different about community and how
Yeah.
we can be navigating these waters, these
Mhm.
economic waters that we find ourselves in.
Then it says
But still,
it's
the
like a
comment.
dog. Then it says it's like a dog sitting in sandpaper out here. Rough.
It is rough. It
It
is
is rough.
rough.
It is rough. I was talking to my husband the other day. Another one of our sons is expecting a child, and they live pretty far away from us. And so, son called one day, and he was like, "Yo, I'm listening to you, and you and Dad are going to go see this one and that one, and making sure that." He said, "Is it okay if we move?" I said, "Please move closer, so that we can all take care of each other. It is important that family is okay." We decide to help, and we've helped them all. We've helped, one to get a loan to buy, not to get a loan. We loaned one a bunch of money so that he could get his house, so that, once he sold his house, blah, blah, blah. We've helped another one when his wife lost his job. We were like, okay, let's all sit down and come together and figure out how to support our children. Cannot be left on an island, and really truly family members. If you see your family members working hard and they've lost their jobs, like the hundreds of thousands of Black women who have been the sole, not just the sole provider, but the main provider in their homes, because we were the ones that were most agreed, right? So our husbands may do something else, not making as much, but we're the ones that were doing XYZ to keep the family afloat. We have to figure this out. Otherwise, you will see a deluge of foreclosures, a deluge of just everything not going right. And to your point, Cherie, we do need to, my husband and I were talking about this, that we got to pull our children together. They are all close together now. They all live pretty close to each other now, where we can support them, except the one son who is expecting a child early next year. So we're like, come back home. We literally said, come on, so we can love on you and make sure that you're okay, because it's hard. It's difficult.
No, it is. I mean, and so, you know, you got people out here on the Uber. Shoot, sometimes I feel like I want to get on Uber and Uber Eats and whatever.
To make a little bit of extra, but it's real talk. We don't talk about these things. It is absolutely real talk.
And like we're not there, people. But I just, you know, sometimes the angst of like, you know, if this thing doesn't come, and if, you know, if this thing doesn't come, and, you know, we have a slow day at the restaurant, and just, you know, multiple things happening. You know, one time I'm blessed that Tracy built our house. Like, I am really blessed that Tracy built our house. So again, when you get married, you got to think about who you marrying. You know, because we have, you know, compared to what our house is worth, we have little debt on our house. So, you know, that's one thing that probably we don't have to worry about. And we are clear in any of our business dealings that, you know, we don't leverage our house. But
good for you.
But yes, there's a way about community that we have to be thinking maybe a little bit differently than historically we've thought.
Right.
You know? And
right,
so,
right. The economy, the way it is right now, when not making enough money to pay your rent, you know, and I agree, you know, if they're in there and they're making some money, $50, it doesn't have to be an exorbitant amount of money, because you want to keep them accountable, especially if you know differently. But it's hard. It is. Mortgages are $4,000 a month. Rent starts at $20-something hundred a month. Right. And they're not making the kinds of money to cover these things fully on their own. And so it's whew.
And then when we think about, so when we again go back to thinking about our economic, you know, pyramid, and just how, you know, how economies work and things like that, when you think about your neighborhoods, and when you think about, like, for us, you know, we have like 40 something employees, and we have worked hard to keep most people whole. Like, you know, you're going to work at least this many hours, you know, you can guarantee that. We've not been like, hey, we're, you know, like people off, what, we may not hire a bunch of people, but we, you know, we have our core people. So when you're thinking again about how you can spend your money, and if you can spend your money, when you're thinking about your local places who hire people that look like us in the communities and the neighborhoods that we live in. And, you know, when you think about your other places that have $1 million advertising budgets, and, you know, and may or may not be as intentional about like the people that they hire, and, you know, and things like that. You know, I just implore us to just understand that whenever the economy is bad for other people, it's even worse for us. So, you know, that is why, you know, I always scream to the rafters about how we need to work together, and just make sure in any way, shape, or form that we are, you know, constantly figuring out how to spend our money within our community, and then how, as a community, we commune better together as families, and, you know, things like that. Whether it's investment clubs, whether it's, you know, ways to help people, you know, make sure that they can pay their bill, you know, just there's so many different ways we can do it. But it is on us who have a voice and have a platform to have the conversation.
And here's the other thing. Those restaurants, the name brand $1 million, they're in trouble too. They're just closing. You're watching them close. You're watching them close all over the place.
You
They're
absolutely
just here
are.
today, gone tomorrow.
You absolutely are.
What's
And my only thing about that, because you're absolutely right, and they hire
Mhm.
people too, and those people deserve to have a job too.
Mhm.
My only caveat a little bit is that some of our places are directly in our neighborhoods.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of them tend to be kind of on the fringes or in the downtown areas, and you know, things like that. But you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. They are. They just close it up.
Yeah, they're here today, gone tomorrow. I was like, what? One chain restaurant closed in Jersey and in Chestnut Hill. The employees got an email the night before, early morning. Operations cease effective immediately, and they're just gone. And so, you can see everything looking sparse. You go to the nail salon, and the nail salon is like they have all these open appointments because people are canceling. Show this like me, the regular nails, not trying to put any nail. I'm cutting everything that is not of everything.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. We
It's
went to.
important.
It's so funny you say that. We went to the nail place. There was nobody in there. I'm trying
Yes.
to remember when we went, but it was nobody in there.
Yes.
Me and Tracy. I was like, wow. I mean, so yeah, it's people are, and for the first time, like my kids, they rarely, they know what's going on. And I try to make sure, I'm like, you're in California, you guys are gonna have this special redistricting election, just making sure they're following their governor and all that stuff. And the other day, my oldest was like, yeah, because the way this economy is going, I'm not spending any money. And I told her, I said, did you hear her say that? Like I was floored. That is like the thing that they are paying attention to. That's that 30. She's 35.
They're feeling it in their pockets. When you have way more month than you have money, that's a situation.
Yeah.
That's a situation.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
I'm going in my closet and just taking out stuff and giving it away. I'm not selling anything to people. Hey, come get this. So people can have what they need. Viola, you see lots of news stores in your area, but there's something afoot. You see a lot of apartment buildings too. There was a gentleman who said, Bill Gates said by 2030, most people will not have a home, that they'll be living in apartments and they'll feel better. They won't have cars. They won't be able to take flights. That there's something afoot here, but it's happening. It's the ebb and flow. It's happening right in front of our faces, and we're just kind of, moving along. And part of this is the fear that is polarizing and frightening to so many people. Early this morning, we talked about someone who was in their early 40s and just dropped off a heart attack. And I said, listen, you got to find ways to help yourselves. Go get your if you have a great health insurance, go get yourself checked out. In Philadelphia, there are several clinics. You don't even have to have health insurance. Go get yourselves checked out, because it is, stress kills, y'all.
It does.
It does. It does, right? Renata says, I haven't been in a nail salon in 3 months and I'm okay. Listen, girl, okay with it. If you don't love my natural nail beds, I don't know what to tell you, because that's extra money and time. Plus it takes, I know, Cherie, extra money and time. It takes so much time. That was the other part that got on my nerves. You drive all the way to the nail salon. You're in there for 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Who has that kind of time?
Yeah.
Right?
That was one of the things that hit us. Like, I just didn't always have the time. Yeah. But, now to your point, I'm thinking, like, do I need it? Do I not need it? Every time I get my hair done, it has to be in a style that I can wear for a while, so that it doesn't,
yes.
so I'm going all the time.
Yes.
And during the pandemic, I learned how to wash my own hair. So I do that too. I definitely am trying to do my part in making sure, that we're, we have a couple trips this year, but after that, Tracy was like, we got to be thinking, differently. And that's true. That's true, because we can't control everything.
You cannot.
You
cannot. We would like to think we can control everything, but we cannot. Tell people how they can find you. Go ahead.
But I definitely wouldn't be no six-figure nobody in my house, and wouldn't be paying no bills though. That wouldn't be happening.
Our wheels will fall off. I'm telling you. Yes. And you have to support each other, because one may be able to do something here, something may be able to do something else here, but to just willfully set up and say, I'm not paying this. I'm not paying a bill. I'm not helping you with the mortgage. I'm not. And I'm telling you, I'm talking about people in the highest places of government in their marriages, where the one is like, I'm not just not doing it. You can't make me do it.
So what are you doing with your money? Where is your money? Like, that would be crazy to me. That's crazy talk.
It is.
Yeah. So Anyway, you can
Yo,
find,
then it says whatever happened to Lee press on nails. That's listen, anybody look. If we keep
but there
our nail
are,
beds clean, we're fine.
Dennis, there's a version of that has come back. The girls at our job, at our restaurant, do something with that. So there's a version of that has come back. So yeah, people are getting creative with how they keep themselves together.
And the other thing for me is I'm constantly cooking. The other morning I got up and made a vat of soup. Oh, that soup is so delicious. Oh my God, it is so good. And we make dumplings. And when we make dumplings, we don't use spoons to make dumplings. Our hands, we're kneading the flour. So I made a coconut cornmeal dumpling and threw it in the soup. My God, on today. And I said to myself, what if my nails were all long? Because, when you wear those nails, you can never get them totally clean. There's always germs underneath them. So that's another part of the reason why I just don't. But saving the money is a beautiful thing. I take that money that I didn't pay on nails and get a set of diapers for my grandchildren. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's reprioritizing what you can spend your money on. It makes a sense. Alexandra says, Cheryl says, that's what I'm doing. Press on nails still exist, said Butterfly. And Alexandra says, Dennis Thomas, they're still around. A friend posted she did them last week. My problem with them is that they flip off. I just want to wear my regular nails. It's okay. Do you? But the press-on nails are like $7.99. So you don't have to spend that kind of money and you don't spend that kind of time. But that means nail salons are going to start closing because they're suffering and struggling. Everybody's at a place where they're trying to navigate. What does it look like? How am I spending what I am spending? And let's be clear, making $200,000 a year at this point is not even considered middle class. Everything is so expensive. So if you can live beneath your means, it's just a great thing to do. How can people find you, my darling?
So they can find me, especially today and tomorrow, at 5021 Baltimore Avenue in West Philadelphia at Booker's Restaurant. And then next week we are starting, because again, we see what's going on in the economy. We're going to have double happy hour. So we're going to have a brunch happy hour from 10 to 12. We have a brunch menu, and then our normal 5 to 7. We have a brunch menu. And then on Fridays and Sundays, so Fridays we have our live music, and Sundays we have Sunday supper along with live music. So again, a really economical way that you can be out and have some entertainment, eat some good food, and not break the bank.
Yeah. How much is that for the meal?
For Sunday supper is $45, and it's a 3-course meal. So shared, I think you get like wings and or something else, and then you pick an entree, and then you have a dessert. For $5 more, you get a glass of wine. So
So $50 you're eating, huh?
You are eating and listening to some really nice entertainment. So it's a nice night out. People do come and take advantage of that. It's a nice night out for sure.
I need us to figure out how we can continue to support each other and do it with love and grace and mercy. I will see many of you at the night market tonight in Ogon.
Oh, the night market is tonight.
It's tonight. You're coming through.
We are definitely going to try. So we're double booked, but we may have to divide and conquer.
Yes. Then it says, I will be booking at Booker's coming up for the Council of Great City Schools coming up next month.
Yes, awesome. I hope Jeremy, I gave him my general manager's, I gave him his number. So hopefully.
Okay, good. I hope you all are able to work it out, because there's another way to keep the economy floating and making sure everybody's okay.
And that's the thing, even if people can't necessarily afford to come out, again, we have those hours of options where, we're being economically sensitive. But if you have businesses that do catering, if you have businesses that need a place to go for a business lunch, like those are the types of things that help businesses, because, businesses are still able to do some things. So, hey, we got to keep it going.
Yeah. Monica, I don't have to park at your spot, but I will bring you a cup of soup. I'm going to use my little wagon, so I'll be able to put soup in it. My husband's like, who's going to eat all of this soup? I said, hey, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
You're bringing it to the night market?
Uh-huh. I'll bring some
okay.
soup.
Yeah, we're going to have to, I've got something going on with a board that I'm on, but we'll both be out in Philly. So we will be dividing Tracy, because Tracy saw that and commented that we need to be there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fabulous evening. So bring your chair. We're going to put our everything in our wagon, so we're just dragging the wagon along. It's a beautiful night. Lots of people, and lots of entertainment. The Blue Notes are going to be on at 5:30. Listen, my kind of people. Then they have some for the younger crowd, and then they have Pastor Waller, who is going to be singing, and he's a great singer. And then we're just moving along. 23 different food trucks, 25 different food trucks are going to be out there, she says. And then there are going to be non-food options, including they're going to be a vegan truck out there too. But it's just a great thing to come out and blend with the community. And I want us to be intentional tonight to get to know your neighbors, talk to the people, learn how you can support each other quietly. We're not going to get on the air and say, well, we're in such and such and such manner, we decided on such and such. Nope. Learn how to support each other quietly, right? And don't make a big deal out of helping people. Just do what you can do, however you can do it, and move the hell on, right? Winetta says she'll be there. Yeah, great. All right, so let me put my little containers together because Mrs. Sands will probably going, what did you promise? Get the soup out for all of you. I love you all dearly. I'll see you all later. This episode of Mornings with Marvel is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Have an amazing day.
I am like hour 29. Whoo, Father, pray for me. Talk to you guys later. Bye, darlings. All right, bye-bye.